Hi, everyone. I hope you've had a great week. Today, we are going to walk through lessons 113 to 116. So let's get started. This week, you're going to need your lesson manual, the student worksheet book, the math card games manual with the game cards, the geo boards, the tangrams, the T-square, the 45 triangle, and a drawing board. This week, your child will continue working on line plots, and they're going to work on some more geometry concepts. So let's get started by turning to lesson 113. Now for the warm-up, your child is going to complete section 4 of practice 3 worksheet. You are also going to ask your child questions about line plots and have them solve some centimeter calculations. Look at the section called Addition Facts. In this section, your child is actually preparing for the worksheet that they're going to be doing shortly after this activity. This section was going to have your child name all of the math facts that total 11, but the addend, which is one of those two numbers that add together to equal the sum, the addend cannot be greater than 9. So some of those options are So all of those options are going to be listed in the book. 11 equals 9 plus 2, 11 equals 8 plus 3, 11 equals 7 plus 4, and 11 equals 6 plus 5. Then you're going to give your child worksheet 77. Now for this worksheet, your child is going to complete the chart first and then do the line plots based on the data they're collecting on the chart. Now your child is going to find out how many addition facts there are for various sums, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through 18. But they're going to do it the similar way as in the previous activity where none of the addends can be greater than 9. There also cannot be any duplicate numbers like 5 plus 5, and there also cannot be any zeros. Have your child complete the chart and the line plot on their own. Then when they're done, you're going to ask them some follow-up questions and then check their work. If they made a mistake, go over those answers by asking questions. Don't tell them that was wrong and don't tell them that the correct answer, but ask them questions to guide that information out of them. For example, if they've missed how in the chart, how many math facts there are to make 12, the sum of 12, ask them the question, what math facts did you use to get to the sum of 12? Sometimes just talking through is going to help them discover those mistakes all on their own. And if not, kind of gently guide them to that correct answer and then discuss it after you're done. After you do that, then you're going to have your child finish the worksheet. Now to finish the worksheet, your child is going to play the game Addition War using only 10 of each number, 1 through 9. Then when a sum is calculated by playing the game, turning 2 cards over, they get a sum. And when that sum is calculated, they are going to place an X on the line plot from worksheet 77. Then when all of the cards have been played, your child is going to answer those final questions on the worksheet. All right, well, let's go ahead and turn to lesson 114. Now for this lesson, your child might find it helpful to use the geo boards, so you're going to want to have that out and handy. Now for the warm-up section, your child is going to do section 5 from the warm-up practice sheet number 3. Then you're going to ask questions again about centimeters and inches. You're going to ask them questions about line plots. And then you're also going to have your child do calculations using centimeters. Now take a look at the section called Worksheet 78. For this worksheet, your child is going to need to use worksheet 74, which your child completed previously. So you're going to want to go ahead and pull that one out as you're pulling out worksheet 78. You're going to start by having your child read through the instructions for problems 1 and 2 on worksheet 78. Make sure that they're reading those instructions a couple times prior to them starting that activity. Your child is going to use the information from worksheet 74 to complete the charts that are on worksheet 78. Now, the answers for the charts are listed at the bottom of the first page of the lesson. Then you're going to have your child complete the line plot. Now, those answers are included on the top of the second page of the lesson. You're going to have, again, your child work through question 3 or start question 3 by reading through the instructions a few times before they start the activity. Then, once your child reads through those instructions, you're going to ask them questions just to make sure they're understanding the instructions. And you will see those questions listed underneath the segment called question 3. Also, for this question, your child may benefit from using the geoboards in addition to or instead of drawing the shapes on the grid. Then you're going to have your child read instructions for question 4. And for this question, your child is going to plot areas based on the shapes that your child drew or built in question number 3. Have your child finish the rest of the worksheets, and the answers are going to be varied based on the shapes that they drew. So there are no answers for you, specific answers for you in that lesson manual, because it's all going to be based on the shapes that they drew on their grid. There is not a math card game listed for this lesson, so you're going to want to pick a game that will keep up your child's math facts. Well, let's go ahead and turn to lesson 115. Now, for the warm-up section, your child is going to complete section 1 on warm-up practice sheet number 4. Now, the answers are included in the lesson manual. Then you're going to give your child Tangram pieces, and that's what these are here. Tangram pieces, several different shapes and sizes. And you're going to ask questions to get your child familiar with these Tangram pieces. Look at the section called Constructing Shapes with Small Triangles. In this section, your child is going to build shapes using these Tangram pieces. Now, the pictures of how to do that and what shapes to your child is going to be making is listed in the lesson manual. For example, your child is going to be making the square. So you're going to pull out the square. Here's a picture of the square, or a closer picture of that square. And then they're going to use some of the smaller Tangram pieces to make the square. So you're going to use one of the small triangles, I don't have all of them out, and then the other small triangle to make this square. The other shape they're going to be making is the parallelogram. And again, they're going to use the different shapes to make the parallelogram. So they're going to layer in that shape and put one there and one on the opposite side. And do the same thing for the medium-sized triangle. Then you're going to ask them questions about those shapes. Now I'm going to go over some of these questions with you. Compared to the small triangle, and that's this one right here, how much area does the medium triangle have? So you're going to figure out how many of these small triangles will fit into the larger triangle, and the child will find out that it takes 2 of the small triangles to fill in the medium-sized triangles. So the area is twice as much of the medium triangle, twice as much as the small triangle. The next question is, compared to the small triangle, how much area does the square have? Again, you're going to have your child see how many of these small triangles will fit inside the square, and they will again find it takes 2 small triangles to fit into the square. One final one, they're going to do the same thing with the parallelogram. How many small triangles fit into the parallelogram? Again, 2. And it will end with that final question. What does this tell you about the areas of the square, the parallelogram, and the medium triangle? And they all have the same area because it takes 2 small triangles to fill each one of these. Even though they're in different shapes, it still has the same amount of area. Now let's take a look at the top of the second page of the lesson. Here your child is going to make 4 squares in different sizes. You can see those squares listed on the top of the second page. You will tell your child which specific shapes to use to build those squares. And the solutions, of course, are in that lesson manual. Now, if your child likes this puzzling kind of thing and they're up for a bigger challenge, there is a 5th square off on the explanation section of the lesson that your child can put together using all 7 pieces of that triangle. Then you're going to give your child worksheet 79 to complete, and your child is going to learn to draw squares. Now, for the square, you're going to need to use the 45 triangle. That's this one here, with equal angles over here. Now, you in the past have used the 30-60 triangle. Now, I know we've probably talked about this before, but let's talk about it again. Why do we call it 30-60 and why do we call it 44? Well, this angle here is 30 degrees. This angle here is 60 degrees. And these angles here are 45 degrees. So you will need to use your 45-degree triangle to draw these squares. Now, let me show you how to draw these squares on the worksheet. For worksheet 79, your child will be drawing some squares. And to do that, the first thing you want to do is, of course, line up your sheet so it's perfectly horizontal with the T-square. And then you're going to get your 45 triangle, and you're going to draw the side lines here. So you're going to line it up on here to the side and draw my side line. You want to make them extra long so that you don't have to go back and redraw them. Now, to find out how tall the square needs to be, you're going to just flip our 45 triangle around, and we're going to line up the bottom corner of the square to the triangle, and then we're going to draw a tick mark up here on the top. And that is how tall the square needs to be. So we're going to pull our T-square up and finish drawing our square. Then you're going to have your child complete the worksheet, the rest of the worksheet. It might be helpful for your child to use the Tangram pieces and assemble those prior to drawing the shapes. There is not a math card game listed for this lesson, so you're going to want to pick a game to keep up your child's math facts. Well, let's go ahead and turn to lesson 116. If you purchased your electronic worksheets in 2015 or before, there is a correction for worksheet 80. So make sure you make those changes prior to starting this lesson. Now, the warm-up section is going to have your child do the warm-up, or section 2 of warm-up practice sheet 4. Then I want you to look at constructing rectangles. And in this section, your child is going to be building various sized rectangles using 3 Tangram pieces, followed by 4 Tangram pieces. And on the top of the second page of the lesson, your child is going to use 5 different Tangram pieces to build these rectangles. Now, answers are included in the lesson manual of how you can build those rectangles. However, do not be really quick to show those or give hints to your child as they're building. Let them struggle through just a little bit as they're puzzling it together, because that is going to develop perseverance and persistence. Then you're going to have your child work through worksheet 80. Your child is going to build Tangram pieces, or actually use Tangram pieces to build the shapes that is shown on the worksheet. And then they're going to document how those shapes were built. Now notice, on the worksheet, the space is not the same size as the full Tangram pieces. They are not to scale. So your child is going to need to kind of build their shapes separate and then document that. Let me show you what I mean. For worksheet 80, your child is going to build rectangles, and they're going to be given a starter shape. So in the very first problem, they're going to be given a square, and they are asked to use 2 small triangles to make a rectangle. So what we're going to do is we're going to build that rectangle, or your child is going to build that rectangle. And once they determine how that's built, then they're going to draw and record that on their worksheet. So from here, we're going to then come to our worksheet. We're going to use this, and we're going to basically draw those rectangle or those triangles on the shape. So I'm going to extend this out. Now remember what we learned, how to draw the square. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it in reverse. So in this case, we're going to find the side. And we're going to find the side by lining up this point here. And in this case, we can actually draw that because we are also notating where those triangles are. So I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. So I'm filling in that square. So there's my square, and here is the two triangles that we use to build the rectangle. Your child is going to continue doing the same similar thing throughout the rest of the worksheet. Now, there is not a math card game listed for this lesson, so make sure you play a math card game that's going to help your child retain their math facts. Well, that's it for the week. If you have any questions or concerns about a lesson, or if your child is struggling with something, give us a call or email us. We're here to help. I look forward to seeing you next week as we look through lessons 117 to 120. Have a great week, everybody.